Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And, of course, I could never do it without the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, the legendary $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. Ted, what's going on, brother?
Hey, buddy. Another day, another dollar.
That's right. That's right.
Well, maybe I should say another day, another million.
I would always prefer that to be the case.
I wish.
Listeners would never see me again. I'd be living on an island somewhere. No, I'd never stop doing the podcast. It's fun. And, brother, we've got a fun one in store today, because today we are taking what will probably be our final look back at your time in WCW. You kind of wrap things up here in 1998. You are still with the company, and you will still make appearances here and there with the company moving forward, but this is going to represent your final major appearance at SuperBrawl 1998. Before you go and move your life in a different direction. And so we got plenty of notes. I can't wait to talk about them. Before we get into our main subject, though, Ted, with us talking about WCW today, I thought we better cover something which we completely missed here on the show. It's my fault. I just haven't brought it up yet. But back in April, we lost NFL legend and Super Bowl winner and WCW alumni Steve Mongo McMichael. He had a very long battle with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which is actually that's a disease that my grandfather passed away from, as a matter of fact.
And,
I know very well.
I just, I didn't hear that like the day that he passed away, but the guy was he was a great guy.
And did you get to know him fairly well over your time with WCW and elsewhere?
Not really. I was in and out of there. I wasn't really fun. Sometimes I look back and go, man, maybe I shouldn't have made that move.
Now, Steve was, of course, a very decorated NFL player, and now he makes a jump into wrestling. Was he a fantastic wrestler? No, he was not. But why would he be? He just made the jump late in his career, after the NFL.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't hold that against him at all. He's a hell of an athlete,
And one of those guys who, with his giant personality and his charisma, man, not to mention toughness, he's a guy who's sort of made for wrestling. If he had started it earlier in his career, I think he really could have, been a big name wrestler.
Yeah, he probably could. He certainly probably could.
Well, God bless Mongo. God bless his family. I know that a lot of folks were really heartbroken over the loss of Steve Mongo McMichael. What a long battle he had with a debilitating disease there with ALS, and certainly he and his family are in our prayers here on the podcast, right, Ted?
Absolutely.
Well, we've talked before about how this period represented a big change in priorities for you in your life. You're starting to move more toward doing these public appearances on behalf of God and your following of Jesus Christ, and it's starting to pull out a little bit from your wrestling. And this, again, it's really the final major show that you're going to be part of, and it also marks the official split up of the tag team that you were managing at the time, the Steiner Brothers. So we'll get into all of it today. We're going to start here, though. Coming out of StarCast 1997, Hulk Hogan's contract is set to expire, but he'll apparently ink a new deal worth millions per year plus incentives. Incentives probably being, a piece of pay-per-view sales. So Hulk was not hurting for money during this period. But I do want to ask your opinion on this, Ted, because it's something that I've heard the argument go both ways on. So we'll get the $1 million man's perspective. If Hulk Hogan had not renewed with WCW during this period, and remember, WCW had been handily beating the WWF in ratings at this point. No problem. Been kicking their ass on Mondays all the way through for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I preface with all that to say, if Hulk Hogan were to have departed from WCW at this time, do you think it would have hurt WCW, or were they so red hot that maybe they didn't really need Hulk anymore?
No, I think it would definitely hurt him.
Yeah.
definitely. It's kind of like because Hulk was just that guy. He was the man. He was the guy. He was the top guy. And uh, anybody that's in a situation or anybody that's that guy, it's just like right now, the president of the United States is Donald Trump.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people who love him. There's a lot of people who hate him.
I do think that your comparison between Trump and Hogan is kind of apropos because like people kind of go into two baskets when it comes to Hogan, even at this time where it's like they love him and boy, it's the NWO, their success is completely due to Hogan, and then on the other side, there's a lot of folks that say NWO doesn't need him anymore. The NWO is played out. Hall and Nash were really kind of the main draw for the NWO in the first place. And it's like people kind of tend to go both ways. But in your opinion, Hogan needed to stay for WCW to continue to have sustained success in 1998.
Yeah, and again, the whole NWO thing. I mean, again, I don't know how long Hulk was there. I mean, I was a part of it for a little while, but and I'm not sure even whose idea it was, but I think they needed Hogan to kick it off.
Yep, I agree. I've heard a lot of people say that the debut.
I love Scott Hall and Kevin Nash is a good buddy, and everybody's, when everybody's jockeying for position, it's kind of like, it's kind of like, if you go out on the field of football or whatever sport you're playing, that's business. And if business means that you got to get down in front of me and try to, move my butt, 10 yards the other way, well, good luck.
Yep.
Now, when we get off the practice field or the game, I said, hey, man, we're cool.
I think that's well said. Wrestling is not a team sport, and Hulk Hogan did not treat it like a team sport. He made a lot of enemies along the way, and everybody likes to say, well, Hulk Hogan, he was the ultimate politician in professional wrestling. And it's like,
well, good for him.
Yeah, you should be. You should be a politician in wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not out there to help each other. Like, you can help guys along the way. And look, if you're a heel putting over a baby face, it's your job to make them look good.
Old school, man. Old school. Yeah. Back in the territorial days, you had to get over it with the promoter. You had because he's the guy that's booking you. He's the guy that's going to say, this is where you're going, this is where you're not going. And so if there's some kissing ass to be done, then hey, you do what you got to do.
And I'm not saying that Hogan kissed anybody's ass, but if he did, he made an awful lot of money for it. So, hey, hard to hate on the guy. He made a lot of money.
I mean, it was like everybody, it's like everybody. And why wouldn't you wish? Well, I wish I was that guy. Well, okay. In another place and another time you might be.
Well, as a reminder, Bret Hart had just come into the company on a massive contract of his own at this time. So they're spending an awful lot of money on talents during this period. So yeah, it's bringing back Hogan. Yes, it's going to represent a huge price tag. However, the name equity alone is going to help to draw fans. And by the way, Bill Goldberg is on the rise during this period. And guess who's going to put over Bill Goldberg in Atlanta in front of 60,000 fans or whatever on Monday Nitro? It's Hogan. And who knows if like that was kind of like the passing of the torch to Goldberg. So like Hulk Hogan sticking around, never a bad thing for business.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, on the other channel, the WWF is bringing in Mike Tyson to confront Steve Austin, and the tides are starting to turn in the Monday Night Wars along with this move. Tyson had become one of the most polarizing pop culture figures in the entire world, and Austin was red hot about to win his first WWF championship at WrestleMania 14. So, Ted, when it comes to celebrities entering pro wrestling, hard to get much bigger than Mike Tyson in the late 90s, right?
Yeah, especially because he was a legit. He was legit. It's not like you bring it in. Okay, this is a popular whatever, or because we've had actors and all kinds of celebrities step into the ring, even if it was were for one show or not. I'm trying to think of somebody else. I can't
But you
think.
guys had Muhammad Ali step
Well,
in Mid South 1985 and do some stuff with Jake Roberts, in fact.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and pop the territory. It was a really cool moment. Like you guys did great business in the Superdome, and now yeah, here comes Tyson in the WWF. And by the way, this is after Mike Tyson bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, so he's already like considered like this maniac, killer fighter type guy, and here he is now on the competition. So pretty big deal. Ted, I mentioned it. Bill Goldberg is on the rise during this period, and we all know that 1998 is going to be his greatest year in wrestling. He feels like a guy that Bill Watts would have absolutely loved. What did you think of Bill Goldberg?
Goldberg was. I liked him. Yeah, like he wasn't really, again, a great wrestler per se.
Nope.
But he had charisma.
Now, let me ask Ted, because this is something I've seen come up a few times. Charisma over ring talent. Why is that like a thing? Why does charisma get you over with fans above the cool moves and being a talented wrestler?
I'll put it to you this way. You can go out there and have a perfect match. But you may be really boring. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, all the moves were good, but why are some movie stars bigger stars than other stars? Well, it's because they exhibit the charisma.
Ted, a lot of people nowadays, they look back on Bill Goldberg's career and they criticize what he did in the ring. They say, well, he couldn't wrestle. Oh, he was dangerous out there. And I think that there's arguments to be made that both those things are true. However, by the criteria that you and I are laying out here today, with charisma and connection with the audience being so important, 1998, Bill Goldberg is the best wrestler in the world because nobody was connecting with the audience the way that Bill Goldberg was.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's like, it's like basically, I guess they were saying that, he really wasn't really good in the ring or something.
Yeah, they were just saying he was
might not have been, but like, hey, Junkyard Dog, oh my gosh. You weren't going to go out there and have a down on the mat and sit out and, wrestling. You're going to go out there and have a fight. And it's like, I would do everything I could to get heat on him. But buddy, when it was time for that comeback, I can still see him cocking his head back and, kind of barking like a dog. And here he comes. And they loved him. They loved him because of the charisma.
Yeah.
If you don't have any charisma, forget it.
Yeah. Most important factor in wrestling.
Yeah. Or any form of entertainment.
Absolutely. You can get by on charisma in any form of entertainment without much other skill.
Okay, but now I'm not talking about other like sports.
Oh no, entertainment.
Football, basketball, all that stuff. You better be damn well good if you can do that, because you can't fake it.
That's right. Nobody's trying to help you out there on the court.
Yeah.
There are a few newcomers in WCW here at the start of 1998. One is Bryan Adams, and he's going to be better known to wrestling fans up to this point as Crush. If you're watching here on YouTube, I've pulled up a photo. He's there in the middle between Demolition. He was brought in with Barry Darsow and Bill Eadie as the third member of Demolition Crush. And then he would go on to be Kona Crush. There's a photo of him, very colorful outfit. He's like a Hawaiian wrestler was his gimmick. And now here he is in WCW. He's brought in as a member of the NWO. And so another piece is added. A lot of people know that Bryan Adams was very, very good friends with Randy Savage during this period of time. So that's probably kind of how he found himself here. Ted, do you have any memories of Bryan Adams, Crush?
Not really. I mean, I met him. He's a pretty likable guy. But I didn't, he's not one of those guys that, that I didn't hang out with him or anything like that.
Okay.
I don't think I was hanging out with anybody at that time.
Yeah, you were straight from the airport hotel building back to the hotel airport. No extracurriculars.
Pretty much.
Other new faces in WCW are Jim Neidhart and the British Bulldog, and they both made the jump after Bret Hart's departure from the WWF. And what's pretty crazy here, Ted, is in 1997, the most popular heel group in wrestling, aside from the NWO, was the Hart Foundation in the WWF. And now 3/5 of that group have now made the jump over from the WWF to WCW in 1998. So pretty crazy happening here. Ted, we've talked about the British Bulldog before, but I don't think we've really discussed Jim Neidhart very much. What do you remember about Jim as a man and a performer?
Jim was okay. He wasn't a great wrestler, but he was good.
Mm-hmm.
He was good, and he was pretty good on the microphone too. I mean, it was I didn't have any. I never said, golly, he's not it. I took that attitude towards Jim. He was genuinely a nice guy.
He proved his worth and that he belonged. Bret Hart was the technician, the excellent wrestler in the Hart Foundation.
And that's it's like if Jim Neidhart had any, whatever he didn't have, his partner damn near made up for it.
And vice versa. Bret Hart was not always great on the mic, but Jim had a lot of charisma on the mic. And so they were the perfect pairing, really, at that time.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, guys, let's hit the pause button on the show real quick to talk about our fantastic sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the guys that we all know and love. We're talking about Blue Chew. Ever since we started talking about Blue Chew here on Everybody's Got a Pod, the question keeps coming up from people, does Blue Chew work? Well, look, if you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month for free. Guys, Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. All you've got to do is sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And if you want to know the best part, here it is. It's all done online. So what that means is you can forget about all the visits to the doctor's office. You can forget about having to have those awkward conversations. Or how about the worst part, waiting in line at the pharmacy? Skip all of it with a little help from Blue Chew. You can take them anytime, day or night, so that you can plan ahead or be ready when an opportunity arises. And what do you stand to lose? You can try it for free for a month, and we think that you're going to love it and your partner's going to love it. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life without even knowing it just because you haven't given this a shot. It's a free service. Why not just try it? And if you don't like it, okay, forget it. You don't have to try it ever again. We always say that first impressions are important, but how about lasting impressions? Build up your confidence with Blue Chew, and they're giving you confidence where it counts the very most. Guys, Blue Chew wants men rock hard. That's what they tell me. That's their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options right now at BlueChew.com. And guys, we've got a special deal for you, our listeners. Again, you can try Blue Chew free. All you've got to do is use our promo code EGAP at checkout and then just pay $5 shipping. That's it. Just go to BlueChew.com, use our promo code EGAP to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod. Well, at Sold Out 1998, Dusty Rhodes is going to join the NWO and become a manager for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. I've heard a lot of people say that it's ridiculous for Dusty to join the faction because he's always been the consummate babyface. Me personally, Ted, when I look back on it, I kind of really like it. It was very shocking for Dusty Rhodes to join the NWO. I don't know. What do you think? A good spot for Dusty at this stage in his career?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of like... Hey, Dusty, and here's the thing about Dusty Rhodes. Dusty could do it all.
Dusty Rhodes is he made, wearing polka dots and being the common man work. I think that he can put on the NWO t-shirt and sell it to folks that he's, turned to the evil side. Yeah. I think by and large, you get Dusty Rhodes in any group, including the NWO. It's a positive addition, right?
Yeah.
Well, WCW had been teasing a Steiner split for a while in the lead up to this event, and you're going to be involved in a match on Nitro where your Steiner brothers will take on Conan and Buff Bagwell. Your team is going to win, but you're going to chastise Scott after the match because he never tags out and he wins the whole thing by himself. The next week, he throws down a ref and tells you to pay the fine, which you refuse to do because of the issues between Scott and Rick during the time. At Sold Out, Scott will show some arrogance by actually posing with Buff Bagwell, who is his opponent during the match. So now we arrive here at SuperBrawl after all that context. It's the Cow Palace in front of more than 12,000 fans. And of course, you're ringside when the Steiner brothers take on Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Let's drop in on the only clip we've got this week. It's only about a minute, and it shows the heel turn that I don't think anybody really saw coming. Here we go.
Back into... Oh! Belly to belly, overhead release. Kevin Nash in the ring illegally. Coming in. Ducky low, Rick Steiner.
Now let me ask you the magic question here. If the opportunity arises, will Kevin Nash go for the power bomb? Another $50,000. I think he will.
There you see the Steiners, one of their trademark poses in the ring, daring the opponent to get in. Rick and Scott. I say to that power bomb question, yes. Oh, what did I just see? He double X on his own brother. What in the world did I just see? You gotta be kidding.
I knew there was something wrong. I could smell it.
He's acknowledging Scott Hall. This is beyond cover. Oh, he's DiBiase.
So, Ted, not only do you take a bump on the hardest part of the ring, the apron. How about that? To me, Ted, you taking a bump is kind of significant here because you had received your Lloyds of London payout a couple years prior, with the stipulation being that you can no longer be physically active in wrestling.
Right.
I mean, when you're out there and you're taking a bump while you've settled with Lloyds of London, is there any fear of repercussion, or were you pretty sure that they weren't watching SuperBrawl 1998?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think it would be like if, and again, the entire time I was there, that would be the only time that happened.
Yeah. I don't think you took any bumps, really.
And if they had said anything, all I had to say was, well, I really didn't mean to take the bump.
He was supposed to hit me and I was supposed to just fall down, but I slipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you. That makes sense. What did you think of splitting up one of the most over tag teams of the era, the Steiner Brothers? Did you feel like it's time? They'd been a tag team for long enough?
Well, no matter who you are, everything gets old after a while. And so I think it's always good to change it up, and I didn't have any qualms about that. And of course, the other thing you need to realize too, Marcus, is that, my heart really wasn't in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, when I stopped physically wrestling, that's what I absolutely love to do. I played the manager role. I think I did a pretty good job of that as well. But my heart was always with being active.
And to me, it's I know that this was something that you asked for, was to become a babyface manager, but at the same time, it's you are one of the best established heels in the history of the business at this point. After this run with Vince, and now you came in and originally you're part of the NWO, but of course, as you've mentioned here, Bischoff kind of took over the role that he brought you in to fill as like the manager of the spokesperson of the NWO. Yeah. And so it's the idea of making you babyface is I think it's cool. It's an interesting footnote that all of a sudden you're a babyface and you're with the Steiners, but really the bread and butter for Ted DiBiase in wrestling is being a heel, isn't it?
Yeah. It was, and again, I don't know if the fans would understand it, but all during that time, when my contract with WCW ran out, I had no intention of, and again, when they brought me on, doing the managing thing it was okay, but it wasn't, my heart wasn't in wrestling anymore. My heart was in the ministry work that I was doing and making those appearances. And so, and I told those guys, I said, I'm making a lot of appearances on Christian television. That's why they turned me babyface. It's like, they're seeing me, worship God on one channel and trying to beat somebody up on that other channel.
Ted, you mentioned there that you had no intention of, renegotiating once your contract had run out. In your mind at this point, are you completely done with professional wrestling overall, or were you thinking maybe I'll return to it down the road?
Well, never say never.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that. I mean, it was kind of like if something were to present itself, and I thought it was pretty good, I said, I'd be willing to do that. But by and large, my whole focus in life had changed to the ministry and the ministry work that I was doing. And I was traveling all over the country and being up again. But it was my fame from wrestling that was attracting these people. And now there's this guy was, what a bad guy he was on TV, and now he's, I got to go hear him. So that's where my focus was for the most part.
Well, look, before we go, I do have to ask, this event, SuperBrawl, and this heel turn for Scott Steiner is also going to mark the transformation of Scott Steiner into Big Papa Pump. And he became a lot more vocal. He took on the look of Billy Graham. He dyed his hair bleach blonde. He's got a blonde goatee with the black mark in it like Billy Graham had. And, he's turned into one of the more polarizing figures in the business during this time. Ted, what did you think of this transformation from Scott Steiner into this Big Papa Pump character?
Well, I think he did it pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really did. When you were talking about, you said Billy Graham, you're talking about the wrestler.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you remember, like
about Reverend Billy Graham.
Yes, he didn't have a lot in common with the Reverend Billy Graham, that's for sure. But yeah, if you remember 1987, 88, Billy Graham comes back to the WWF. He's got the bald head, but he's got the blonde goatee with the black patch right in the middle of it. Yeah, and that's exactly what Scott Steiner did here. But yeah, it's what a character change for Scott, isn't it?
It was, and he did well, I thought.
For your money, the best physique in the history of pro wrestling, is it Scott Steiner? I mean, he looked like an actual, Olympian bodybuilder.
At that time, absolutely. I mean, and to that, the only one I could say that could possibly surpass him was Billy Graham when he was at his best.
Yeah, Billy Graham was a monster. Kerry Von Erich had a phenomenal physique as well. There were a lot of good ones, but man, Scott Steiner, his muscles were like enormous. His biceps.
Scott had a great body and he could work.
Yes, that's the other thing.
Yeah. There's been several guys that looked really good until they rang the bell.
Yes, everything's good until that damn bell rings. Well, hey, look, again, this was our final look back at your time in WCW. I love looking back to this period of time in your career, kind of a cool intermingling of the golden era of wrestling and now what's become the Monday Night Wars era. So always cool to revisit it with you, and appreciate the fans coming along for the ride on that. Of course, we'll be back talking again next week about something else, and I can't wait to chat with you, my friend.
Well, thank you much. Thank you so much, Marcus. I appreciate you doing this, and it's kind of like through the process and the podcast that we've done over how long's it been now? But I mean, it's bringing back a lot of things that I totally forgot. It's kind of like especially they go, like, what was your favorite match? Well, let me see. I only wrestled 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Ted probably worked close to 10,000 matches in his career, so it's got to be hard to remember all of them.
Yeah, man. It's like, has anybody ever figured that out?
You know, it's so cagematch.net is a resource that a lot of fans use. I actually use it for research a lot of the time because it's got, in theory, it's got every single match that you ever worked on there. Now, I say in theory because like they're not counting a lot of the spot shows that you guys were doing back in those days.
Yeah.
So it's like it's got a great list, but like that list is incomplete. So whatever you find on Cage Match, folks, you could probably add like another 1,000 or so matches to that at least.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah. So I say all that to say I have no idea how many matches you've worked in your career, but I know it was in the thousands. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Marcus, thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you too, man. It's always a pleasure.
I'm dying to see a match, man. I'm dying to see you.
I'll tell you what.
Maybe I'll be your manager.
I would love that. I would love that. Well, we're gonna make this happen at some point. I'm gonna have you at one of the events or something. But yeah, man. And of course, it's like, look, a lot of people will ask me. It's really funny because a lot of guys that I work with now, when they see me work, they're like, "I love your old school style." And I'm like, "Well, I talk to Ted DiBiase and Jake Roberts and Jim Duggan all the time, so like, it's kind of a master's class every time I sit down with you guys." You know?
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'll have to. I'm gonna send you one of my matches. I gotta get your take on it.
Okay.
All right, and
All right.
And I'll get your take on a new subject here on the show next week.
In case any of you think that I've changed, I really haven't. The one thing you must all remember is that everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
We'll see you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.
$1 Million dreams, tell them all good night. Everybody's got a pod.